Good morning and welcome to the program Perspectives on Invicta 98.9. This morning on Perspectives it will be about the young and Nigeria today. I'm saying the young and Nigeria today because what we're getting from all divides of the country are sounds of war, if you'd like to say that. I mean, drums of war, and that Nigerian young ones are, calling for. The social media, as good as it is, may also be a bad influence on the Nigerian youth. And so, the question being asked this morning is just how much do the young know about Nigeria? How would we start, this project and where we are with it today? Nigerians are very angry. The young ones, I would say, are very angry about how the country is being driven. And again, can't blame them, can you? Because people would say that so much injustice that we're seeing, so much that Nigerian young ones are not given the opportunity to express themselves. And again, we have the Nigerian dream, but just how much do we know about the Nigerian dream? And so today we're sounding the drums of war. But the question being asked is the youth and the nation. We all do know that they are the engine, to drive a nation, move a nation forward. But again, where are we with the Nigerian young ones, the youth of Nigeria? Okay, people like us will just go back to time and say that there was a time in this country, 67 to 70, 1967 to 70, to 1970, Nigeria experienced, we went through a war. And that war would have torn this country apart. But again, it was about keeping Nigeria one. I remember then that the military head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, that name Gowon, most people would not know, and some people would remember that name Gowon was coined out of go on with one Nigeria. That's Gowon, go on with one Nigeria. And the spirit was there, and we kept it. And so we have one Nigeria today. But just what do we have today? Tear Nigeria apart. Everyone go our separate ways, and that's what we're hearing now. And how good would this be for this nation? And a war. Most people would say that having two wars in a nation, how can one survive it? So the young ones are the ones, sounding the drums of war, or beating the drums of war, that we go our separate ways. But again, for people that do understand, there's so much in our diversity that we can, help on, and we can take away so much, that in our diversity we find our strength. But the way we're going about it now, of course, for very obvious reasons, no one is denying that we just cannot go on this way. And so I'm bringing a young one into discussion today because again, they are the ones that would know about tearing this nation apart, especially from the social media. And I do know that today some men of wisdom would just not go with what the social media is talking about, especially when you hear the vexation that is coming from the social media. And so, keeping Nigeria one, and what we have to do to keep it as one. My guest this morning is Yusuf Goje, a public affairs analyst. He's a young man, and for very obvious reason, I brought him on the show this morning to talk about why this expression of anger, vexation, that's coming from our young ones. Tear Nigeria apart. Let's go our separate ways. We don't need to be together. This contraption is not working for us. Unholy marriage and so much interpretations that has been put on this project in Nigeria. And so let's just get done with it and go our separate ways. Yusuf Goje, good morning and glad to have you on our show.
Good morning, my brother, the top.
Okay. I went down with that background there to just give you the expression that we're getting now, and I'm sure that you're not, unfamiliar with the expressions that we're getting from young ones, the youth in Nigeria today. And so, your concerns and how we've gotten ourselves here.
Thank you for having me this morning. I would just like to start by saying we are only reaping what we have sown to the nation. And the youth are a segment of any society at the mercy of the leadership of that society, in the sense that if you invest in them, you will definitely reap a productive, competitive, and creative demography. But when you fail to invest in them, you would only reap a frustrated, angry, and violent-prone demography. So whatever we are seeing today is only a manifestation of failed leadership over the years, because government over time have really failed to prioritize young people. Sadly, the leaders we have enjoyed the best that this nation had to offer in terms of human capital development than any other generation before them or after them. But again, for reasons best known to them, they have not transferred that benefit to the present generation. And you know that for us, as the present young people in Nigeria, we are also exposed to global happenings. So awareness level among young people is on the high side. So it means that you cannot contain the aspiration of young people like previous years, because now we have access to the internet, you have access to information that ordinarily in the 70s you would take 1 year to be able to gather such kind of information. But today, at your fingertips, you get information that you want from all over the world. We have seen how other parts of the world are progressing, and we have admired that kind of progress. But when we look back to our realities in Nigeria and we see that the story is different, it is really a source of frustration. If you look at history, you find out that over the years, we have gone very low in human capital development. And what do we mean by human capital development? It means the investment that government is making in health, in education, and in providing those opportunities, especially economic opportunities, where young people can deploy their potential, their skills, their talents in order to live productive and profitable lives that would then keep them very busy, that they would not even think of talking about pushing this country into violence or civil war or division. But because we have failed in that direction, we are presently reaping the manifestation of that inability of the leadership to invest in its young people. And again, another thing that I think is contributing to what we see, the agitations among the young people, is that we have lost our sense of history as a nation. A lot of our young people don't know the history of this nation. They don't know the challenges. They don't know about all the various crises that we have to go through, starting from the Southwest Civil War at the point in time. They're looking at the coups, looking at the Civil War that was fought, and other crises. So a lot of them don't understand the implication of calling for violence or division of this country. If you go deep down into history, you understand that this country is so intertwined. Beyond colonialism, we are already intertwined by geography, by a lot of interdependence, by a lot of cultural interrelations, that breaking this country will mean worse than what we are even experiencing. So again, we have seen a situation where either deliberately or unconsciously, history has been removed from our educational curriculum. So young people don't even understand where they are coming from, where as young people we have a crisis of identity. We don't even know who we are as a people. So I think a lot of these things keep on adding to the fact. And if we look at also the economic situation of this country, presently we are looking at a threat where Bill Gates in 2018 said that cited a report that by 2050, 40% of the extremely poor in the world will be in two countries. And Nigeria was the first country that he mentioned, then followed by the Democratic Republic of Congo. So it means that anywhere you have prevalence of poverty, it is likelihood that there's a likelihood that people will be angry, will be frustrated at the system, and will want to get back at the system out of frustration and anger. Don't forget, we have presently fallen into the second recession. During the first recession, many people did not take note that immediately after that recession, there was an increase in criminal activity. And it is also because government did not take into fact that a lot of people fell into poverty, and there were no measures to ensure that those people were adequately supported. Yes, there were a lot of social investment programs, but these programs were challenged by the issues of our adequate targeting of who should benefit. So a lot of young people went deeper into poverty. There were no jobs, and I can assure you that the banditry, kidnappings, and what have you, the recession also contributed, because a lot of young people resorted to these other social vices to eke out a living. And now that we are also facing another recession, I think the future is not bleak. So it is understandable that we look at all these factors as the reasons why young people are venting their anger and are even willing to go to the extent of bringing down the roof of Nigeria just to demonstrate how they are frustrated with how things are being run in this country. So a lot needs to be done to see that we checkmate it. Yes, we can condemn it, but again, we have seen a society where commercializing or merchandising our fault lines around religion, ethnicity, and regionalism is a means of earning a living. All you need now is to emerge as a warlord in one ethnic or regional setting, and you have all the relevance, all the resources coming to your direction. So these are things that, because there's money now, we are seeing more of conflict entrepreneurs coming up, looking at the best way to make money is to exploit the fault lines in Nigeria, so that they can also position themselves to take out the living. And these things, I can tell you, we learned it from our leaders.
All right,
Yusuf, them have exploited this year.
Yes, thank you for going down memory lane too, and bringing out history too into this conversation. But I like to, take you back to history too. That young man growing up, as I was a young man growing up then in the 70s. People, of my age who can relate to this story would know that in the primary schools there were bunkers that were built, bunkers that were dug, for the 67, 70, year during the period of that war. It was about, the war was being fought in down southeast and some part of southwest, and again we were here in the north, in Kaduna here, but we were made to, dig the bunkers, where, at any plane, hovering around, you as primary school pupils, you just run into the, to the bunkers or to hit. So that was, one part of that history of this nation that people of my age can talk about, that it was that bad. I have a friend today, each time he goes back to what happened in the 60s, 67 to 70, from the southeast part of the country. He's an old man now, but the guy will go crying. He will bring tears from his eyes because he said the experience is not to be talked about and should never, happen. But here we are, with this country today, and that's what we're doing. And so I like to bring, two presidents of this country, the serving president now, General Muhammadu Buhari, who had said that I am for everybody and for nobody. General Obasanjo had just come now to say that blame his generation for the failure of what had happened to this nation. Now, comparisons here about those two people, serving and once had served in this nation. And so when we bring these two people, and if they know that much about what had happened, how we're driving this nation, what we say about the regrets now about leadership in this country?
Well, usually any nation that does not have a collective vision of where they want to go to, they don't have, if I use the proverbial promised land that they want to get to, it is bound for them to end up in confusion. And it is part of what we have seen, that over the years we have seen leaderships that have been unable to put together long-term developmental plans for the nation. Because when you have a long-term development plan for your nation, it means that you would know also where you need to invest. So if you have, for example, a plan for the next 100 years, you know that the present generation would not see the next 100 years. So you begin to put in systems that would invest in the present crop of young, the children coming up now, who you believe will see that years and will be part of developing what you want to achieve in that year. So I think basically it is, as Chinua Achebe, it's a challenge of leadership, as he said. So all the challenges we see in Nigeria rises and falls on the question of the kind of leadership we have gotten over time. And sadly, those leaders that we have gotten, and I am not excusing any category of leaders, because since from 1960 till date, we have seen the kind of leadership that has tried more on emphasizing on our fourth line. Either they are promoting regional interests, or they are promoting ethnic interests, or they are promoting religious interests. And that has been buried deep down into our psyche as a nation, and we have handed it over to the present generation. I can assure you that, yes, we can look at history, but for a lot of our young people now, that history means nothing to them, because they don't even know about it. Nobody has taught them anything about it, so they don't even understand where the problem is. All they see is that they want to be like America today. They don't understand that these things take process, take sacrifice, take dedication, take patriotism. And they believe that at the end of the day, they are not even Nigerians. Because if we are Nigerians, then it means that whatever we will do it towards defending Nigeria. And again, I think you would not blame these young Nigerians that are doing that, because from when they have grown up till now, they have not gotten that sense of belonging in their country. Just to look at some very salient issues, we have a situation. Look at our basic education system as a country now. You find out that the quality is likely nothing to write home about. Not to talk about even the tertiary level, where for the past year now, our public tertiary institutions are on strike. And aside that, even when they are not on strike, when you go and see the quality of education that is being offered, we are just producing consumers. We are not producing productive population. And what do I mean by consumers? People that only look at how to exploit the system. How do I use my connection or what have you, I get to a particular position and chip away the wealth or commonwealth of the nation. We are not producing young people that will look at the opportunities that are available for them and find creative and innovative ways of taking advantage of those things. So if you produce a large percentage, at over 60% of your population, with an educational system that only tells them just graduate and go and look for work, for example, and when they graduate, they don't find that work, and they don't have any other skills to fall back to be productive, to be innovative, in order to ensure that they are profitable to themselves and to the nation at large. For example, a recent issue of this banning of cryptocurrency. For God's sake, we are in the 21st century and we have a governance system that is in the 19th century. Who is going in the next future, the banking system is going out of extinction. We have the cryptocurrency, the bitcoins and what have you, that are going to definitely take over the financial system. We should be seeing a central bank that will come up with policy that will identify young people already into this cryptocurrency, create a regulatory framework for them, use them to educate more of young people to take advantage of these jobs of the 21st century. But what we are seeing is that we prefer to bring these young people and tell them to go and access loans and go back to farms that there is no enabling environment to even go and do this thing. So it means that once you don't have the right quality of leadership that is forward thinking, that understands what the largest population in which country needs in terms of opportunities, then you are bound to have a situation where you have a lot of redundant young people, a lot of frustrated young people, and a lot of people that are ready to bring down the nation, even ready to die on their own, because people are dying of depression, because going through school, they suffer through school, and at the end of the day, all their hopes, their aspirations are dashed, because you don't have the kind of leadership that should understand that what used to work in the 70s, 80s, 90s will not work in this generation. We need to begin to look at the kind of opportunities that we can provide for them. But if we don't do that, I can assure you, we can sit down and sermonize on why young people should not go into violence or why they should not participate in it. It will not change anything until we are able to build a society that would factor in what their aspirations are and ensure that we correct this thing. So it's something, as I have said from the beginning, that we are only reaping what we sow. We cannot compare the quality of young people we have today with that we had during the pre-independence stroke independence. We have, for example, the Nigerian Youth Movement, which came into effect in around 1936. If you look at the Nigerian Youth Charter that they produced, you find out that these were young people in their 20s and 30s. But this Nigerian Youth Charter that they produced was the framework that they determined a lot of the things that happened at that point in time, considering the Richard constitutions, considering policies around education and agriculture. And these were just young people in their 20s and 30s. But you have a generation presently that the best they can tell you is to give you updates on what is happening on Big Brother Nigeria. It is not because they want, that is where they want to put their focus, but a lot of them use those entertainment activities to run away from the frustrations that that bedevil them in a country that has no clear-cut plans for them. We have a youth policy in this country. How many times have you heard of that policy? I don't think that policy even has an implementation plan or a funding mechanism to ensure that all the relevant ministries and DAs cater for them. One look at the budget spent in the Ministry of Youth and Sports. At the end of the day, you find that the majority of the funding goes to sports. So it means that the only major value that a ministry that should be for youth has is for young people to only go and do sports. Yes, sports is important. So we know that nations that have advanced have invested more in present realities. That's why you see people like Mark Zuckerberg, even without graduating from Harvard, has already gotten the foundational educational resources needed to be able to establish Facebook. Because from his basic education down to his college level, he has already been exposed to the kind of information, the kind of knowledge, the kind of skills that will enable him, even without a degree certificate, to be able to establish that kind of investment. So it just has to do with reaping what we have sowed, and we really need to take very, very radical strategic steps to ensure that we avert the crisis that is happening. Because if you look at the level of our population growth, compared to the level of our economic growth, you know that we are just on a ticking time bomb, and it will surely implode. It is not about because going to church and praying or coming to speak theory. It is about practical realities that if we don't see clear-cut steps that would create the enabling environment that would bring back the sense of belonging for young people to know that yes, without Nigerians, there is no Nigeria, and we have our roles to play. And if we play our role, the enabling environment is there to reward our effort. Then we continue to just talk about theory, what should be done, when we talk about one policy or the other, it will still not change the fundamental issue that the enabling environment is not there for every young person to believe that yes, I am a Nigeria and this is it. Look at what happens on social media. All you see is every day, and I can tell you that to a large extent, the social media is even helping us because it's even providing young people with the ability to vent in their anger. The kind of anger you see in social media, just imagine if somebody is carrying it in himself. It means that it would have included for a long time. So it's even psychologically helping them to vent out their frustrations and anger. But really, we need to see a clear-cut direction. I can tell you, if you ask the next 50 people or 100 people you meet, even those in government, what is the clear-cut direction that government has for young people? Nobody will give you an articulate answer because nobody has a clear-cut direction of where government is working towards taking young people in the 21st century.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Yusuf. I have to, take a break there. I have to go to the commercial shop, do some shopping and then come back to you. Okay. Right. It's the program Perspectives this morning, and we're talking about the young and Nigeria today, youth and the Nigerian nation, where we are with the young ones today and driving the nation forward. Yusuf Goje, a public affairs analyst, a young one too, sharing thoughts with me this morning. We'll come back after this break. Welcome back. It's the program Perspectives this morning on Invicta 98.9, and we're talking about the youth and the Nigeria of today. And we're talking about just what has gone wrong with the youth and their attitude, and of course the attitude of the Nigerian nation and what they want out of this nation. My guest this morning, Yusuf Goje, a public affairs analyst and a young man, a youth too, sharing thoughts with us on what has gone wrong and how we can, get it going again with the young ones. Yusuf, hello.
I'm with you.
All right. Again, I bring this in because I want to make comparisons now. And comparison for me would be going to America, where we're picking our democracy from, and to say that the young ones today, the youth of Nigeria, would always put the blame on the old ones, and of course the old too are accepting that they failed, the young generation. But again, go back to America. Joe Biden is the president of America today, 46th president of the United States of America. And when you compare his age, you were talking about a man in his late 70s, so to say. And of course, even with his predecessor, Donald Trump, also, when in his 70s too. And these are people, in an old bracket. And then you come back to Nigeria and you have these young ones, the venom, being poured on the old ones, that they failed them. And so you're making comparison to say that what's wrong with the old in Nigeria in, the position of leadership? And why is it that in a country like America, it's not about age, it's not about, old or young, they're just getting the nation going. But for Nigeria, the young ones who always, pour the venom on the old ones that and of course with what we're seeing, even coming back to family level and all of that, the old ones just do not make meanings to these young ones. And of course they forget too that the young shall grow and the young will become old too. Why are we having this about the old and the young in Nigeria?
All right, first of all, I think as far as I know, leadership has nothing to do with age. Leadership is about certain qualities and characteristics that some have it by nature, while others by nurture. So when it comes to leadership, it doesn't really speak to whether you're 70 or you're 20. What matters is, do you have those qualities and do you have those characteristics for you to be able to deploy such resources to the progress of your nation. One thing we must tell ourselves the truth is that is it really an issue of age? If you go memory lane in 1999, we had a lot of governors that were in their 30s. I think Governor Uzo Kanu was around 38 years in 1999 when he became governor of Abia State. And a host of a lot of governors. Donald Duke was also, I think, in his 30s and all that. So we can't really say it is only about age. We have young people at that age, and if you look at it, some in their 30s performed well, some in their 30s performed woefully. And even presently, we have a lot of young people holding very strategic positions in the various states. And a lot of them are performing and a lot of them are not. So we have older people holding sensitive positions. A lot of them are performing and a lot of them are not. So what is very critical for any nation, whether America or Nigeria, is to have a leadership selection or a leadership recruitment process that is strategic and designed to deliver on the kind of nation you want. If you look at President Biden did not become President Joe Biden today. President Biden, who has been a senator, I think, for almost 40 years. So probably, if you calculate, he has been in the system since either his 30s, around his 30s, late or middle 30s, even down to his 20s. So you will find out that he has been in the system. The system has prepared him for where he is today. So it is not as if he just came out of nowhere and he's just a 70-year-old man that is coming into power and all that. So I think the emphasis for us is, what is the leadership recruitment process? Do we have a leadership development system that will see a young man in his early 20s begin to learn the ropes of leadership, begin to grow into the leadership position that the nation would need to go forward? Because it is not just about give young people leadership. The critical question is, how prepared are we for leadership? Leading a nation goes beyond just having a degree, a master's degree, or a PhD certificate. It goes beyond that. Leading a nation goes beyond running a tech company. So you must understand the complexities, the complications of your nation. You must understand the historical trends. You must be able to have a wide range of network across the country to be able to understand the problems collectively and based on the peculiarity of every region. You must have an overview knowledge of both global, international and local economies. You must understand the intricacies of politics, because a lot of the problems we face is not because we lack good policies, programs or laws. No. We face them because we have vested interests that are rich and very powerful, that are making huge political and economic capital out of the fact that Nigeria is not working today. So how do you uproot those kind of people to ensure that the brilliant ideas that we come on media to talk about are implemented? So we must just beyond leadership of a country is actually beyond just aspiration and because you are well educated and learned. We have seen professors being given appointments in this country and they have failed woefully. So it means that what we need to focus on is what is our long-term plan in terms of leadership development and recruitment for young people. Should we start from our educational curriculum, where even as a young child, there are core leadership qualities, values that are being embedded in you. For example, you will find out that if you take the concept of unity schools in this country, it is one way of building the kind of leadership we need, because it provides opportunity for young people to mingle, to understand the diversity in this country, the complexities and the cultures of other people from all parts of this country. So do we have leaders that are not just some people that are just growing in one location, they have not gone outside their comfort zone, and you trust leadership on them? So these are some of the critical things that we must factor into, because one thing I always tell patients that we criticize as young people, if you look at it critically, they are one of the most disciplined generations. That critical values of respect and a lot of other values were instilled in them. But see where we have ended. So imagine of our own generation, where a lot of these values have not been embedded in our young people. We have a generation that a lot of them cannot even sit down to write WAEC or JAM or write their high institutions exams without cheating. So it means that this is the kind of also generation that we will give responsibility of leading a nation. So these are critical questions that we must ask. Yes, young people can criticize the leader. Yes, we have justifications to do that. But we must also look back at ourselves as young people to see, are we really ready to take over the leadership of this country, or we are just using the analogy of the oppressed, the aspiration of the oppressed is to be like the oppressor, where all we desire is to be like the present people in leadership, because we see that they enjoy so much privileges, they have so much resources, they have so much power, and that is what our ambition as young people is to be, to get it overnight, because we feel these older generations have gotten this wealth overnight, and because they have gone into power.
Okay.
So we need to really question some of these things, not just to look at because you are a youth, you are entitled to leadership. No, we must look at it beyond that.
Okay, and just I put this across, just for come to the audience. It's about education. You have on that. What education can do, in terms of empowerment, for people with vast knowledge, and of course to help in the position of leadership. But again, I just put this across to what is really happening to us today as a nation. These young ones, the youth that so much dependence can be on. When you look at it, Nigerian youths today, so much that we're just drifting away in the wrong direction. I'm looking at the Yahoo thing that is going on now. Our youths have taken over, and so easy way to wealth and easy way to making it in life for them. That's it. Banditry is all about the young ones too. They've taken up to that, or to get the good things of life, all the best things of life. And then you talk about armed robbery, you talk about kidnapping, you talk about the Boko Haram thing that we're in with now. It's all about the youth. So what has gone wrong with that, so much so that our youth are just finding this criminality as the best way to having the best things of life?
Yes, as you have talked about education, yes, I highlighted earlier that the kind of education we give our youth is only the education that will make them consumers. And when they are consumers, all their thinking faculty will be directed at just taking. They are not looking at giving. When I mean giving is you looking inward and looking at what talent, what skills, what gifts can I develop to ensure that I add value to the society, and in doing that I am able to be productive and also get profit. So the present educational system is not providing that kind of thinking for young people. And because we are only looking at consumers, when people graduate from school and they don't have jobs opportunity, because we know what our economy is, then it means that they will look at what is the next place that I can just get money to consume. So they begin to look at quick win schemes. They begin to look at going into Yahoo and armed robbery. And I should tell you that we think Yahoo and armed robbery is for the dull people. It is not. It is for intelligent people, because they go through series of planning, series of tedious strategizing before they are able to achieve. So any nation will tell you that if we have a high rate of Yahoo boys, Yahoo, a high rate of armed robbery, high rate of, it means that we also have a high rate of intelligent people, intelligent young people. But the only difference is that they are channeling their intelligence into negative endeavors, because the system has not created positive endeavors for them to channel this energy. For example, if you have young people that can be able to defraud a tight system like the American financial system, then it means that you should bring those people, serve them punishments, but also what you should learn from them. We watch in movies where Americans get people that are able to build their to defeat their, to bypass their security systems. When they are arrested, they are not only taken to prison and abandoned. No, most of them end up being employed by the government so that they can deploy their intelligence, their skills into strengthening the American system. So we need to begin to look at not just condemning the young people for going into this crime. Yes, these crimes are condemnable, they are bad, but we must also understand the conditions that force them into doing those things. So rather than prosecuting them alone, we must look at how can we begin to rehabilitate them, use the knowledge and skills they have around beating our security system, around defrauding financial system, and you now transform that negative voice into more positive channels by supporting them with financial resources for research and development, to use that to impact the nation's possibility.
Even when they go into armed robbery and the terrorism thing that we're going through, experiencing too?
No, the truth is this. That is why I said it is condemnable, armed robbery and terrorism, but we must also put it in the context of what is pushing them into it. So we must qualify it in as much as doing that. So yes, it is condemnable, but the most critical thing is this: as long as we don't address the conditions that push young people into fraud, into armed robbery, they will continue to go into it. The more you arrest, the more you kill, the more you imprison, the more young people are produced to feed into that supply of criminality. So you must go down to the root cause of addressing what is pushing these young people, not just criticizing them, because you can't say that somebody that sits in a government office and steals billions of naira, that should go into educating a young person, that should go into providing the enabling economic environment for that person, is not as guilty as the young man that goes into crime because he was denied those same opportunities. We have people sitting in government stealing money, and it is because of their stealing that these young people are going into these criminal activities. But while they are giving chieftaincy titles, these people that are just victims of the act of these people in government are being imprisoned, persecuted, and what have you. So we must actually put our priorities right at going down to the root causes of why young people are going into this crime. Okay. For young people, we must also realize that yes, our leaders have failed us, we can't ignore that, but again, we must look inward and begin to say the next 100 years is ours, not for the past leaders, but it is ours.
Okay.
So we must work together to salvage this country.
All right, Yusuf. Just try to squeeze in one or two calls here. Make it. I'll take it to the audience now about the youth and Nigeria today, and why we're not just getting it right with our young ones, sounding the drums of war, and of course, not mindful with language and not mindful too about what the consequences of these can be to these great nations. Take your calls now on 081 40,000 989, 081 40,000 989 or 070 87 800 989, 070 87 800 989. Your calls now. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Toyalabi.
Good morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning, the entire Victor family.
Thank you.
Good morning to your guest.
Thank you.
Musabala.
All right, let's hear it.
Well, your guests have spoken and you have made a lot of analysis. But in my own contribution, with due respect to Nigerian youth, for some of them are good, but to be very sincere, majority of our Nigerian youth, fully speaking, they are lazy.
Lazy.
Yes, sir. They spend most of their time complaining that people push them to do that, people push them to do that. At least they lack their own sense of judgment. Why should somebody push me to fire? And at the same time, our so-called NGOs and SOS, the civil society organizations, some of them even claim to have been there for good governance, are not truly there for good governance. Because there are a lot of things that, as a result of bad governance, that they either keep their eyes on the other side and what they deliberately refuse to talk about. They were simply, agents who allowed themselves to be recruited by opposition. The team opposition in Africa is about making violence and ensure that the leadership of power, no matter whose side of it, never ever succeed. I'll give you a quick example. Of recent, just last year, 2020, I was shocked when I heard that Bayelsa State was borrowing to buy cars. I was shocked. Bayelsa State, with all the money they have, they still have to borrow to buy cars, and yet not any CSO that claim to have been monitoring for good governance that even talk about that. So until the day the youth took over their own future and ensured that, look, these people, they are always against us. Let's not forget about them. But so when they allow themselves to be used by them, as they are roaming the drum of war now, they started even campaigning some people that are authorities and all about. Honestly speaking, the future is still blue for the youth, and I hope they will see the light of the day and change for good and for a better society.
All right.
Good morning, Mr. Toyala.
All right, good morning, Musabala. Another call there. We'll take another call. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Toyala.
Yes, good morning.
And good morning to your guest. My name is Comrade Cesar Man.
I say you.
Those of us who are very close to this very youth, the truth is that they say an idle man is a double what is something like that. But what I'm saying is that if the federal government would go around and make sure it bend down, revive most of these industries, even including NNPC, and create massive jobs for youth, so I assure you that this country will be a better place to live.
Okay.
So if you go to Kaduna, for example, go around Kaduna and see, most of the industries are down. What do you want those people to do? And it is because of this industry that we have things like television, Nasarawa, Kurungwari, Kakuri, Mwakela, and other areas. These are massively big. You go there today, even if you cook your food outside, you need to carry the pot with the food. So my prayer is that let the federal government go back and make sure that most of these industries are revived. Once we revive them, they must improve for the youth. In fact, they will draw them. You can see what happened in this NSAT process. There was a clear demand that in this kidnapping and others, so they either collect money or they kill him.
Okay.
So they have no clear demand on what they are doing, sir.
Okay. Thank you. All right, we'll take one more and then come back to our guest. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm your guest. Your guest has spoken very well. This is Engineer Emmanuel.
All right.
You see, for me, the youth, they are well intelligent, and it's just that opportunity has not been given to them. Even those that opportunity was given to, they are misusing the opportunity. Let's take an example of the governor of Kogi State. Look at his first panel. Even now goes to those that admins and see, as a youth that is supposed to leave a legacy, what are we seeing? The reverse is the case. So I think there are youths that if they are given the opportunity, they will do better than the elderly ones, the elderly state ones that refuse to leave, give the youth the opportunity. It's rather unfortunate. You see, these elderly ones, they were once a youth, and founding fathers of this country gave them the privilege
attend to some school level, and it was free and all those things. Now, but now that it's in their turn, all that they are doing is their own children, and so that when they retire, they'll put them in.
Okay, all right, Engineer Emmanuel. All right, we don't have much time, Yusuf, but again, Musa Bala, lazy youths that we have is on that, and of course, Comrade Gabriel saying that opportunities that's coming from Engineer Emmanuel, give the youths the opportunities and they will excel. Of course, Comrade Gabriel is also saying that I don't mind Devil's Workshop. Just in 60 seconds, if you can just sum it up.
Okay, I think all of them made very germane points, and they speak to the core of the issues we are discussing. But just to finalize, just say my call is for young people. We need to wake up. We cannot depend on the present system to deliver the kind of future we want. Presently, our debt as a country is over 30 trillion naira, and the present crop of leaders will not be the ones to pay. We will be the ones to pay. So beyond coming on social media to insult and call for war, we must find ways to begin to engage in governance, ask questions. Let's use our population more positively to ensure that we make those we elected to do what they promised us to do. We should not always also avail ourselves to these politicians to continue to use us to divide the country, to want to destroy this country, because they know that they don't have more than 20 years to live, and for their children, they have already made provisions for them abroad. So it is us that will remain in this country that would suffer. So it is for us to redefine the Nigeria we want to get. The ball is now in our court. We cannot continue to rely on blaming the present crop of leaders or the past leaders, but to begin to think and look forward towards how can we create opportunities for ourselves. Because we have seen young people becoming very innovative. We have a lot of intelligent Nigerians also making believe in part of even the bad situation that we have in Nigeria. So I think we need to look inward as young people, and let's not allow our frustration destroy the only country we have that we can also put our hope and aspirations on.
On that, thank you so very much, Yusuf Goje. We thank you. It's been a useful conversation as far as I'm concerned. Thank you for coming on the program. Okay, and that's about the size of it on Perspectives today. And we're talking about the youth and Nigeria today. So much venom that youths are pouring out on the Nigerian state, and of course how to get it better. We can get out of this quagmire that we're in. Yusuf Goje, my guest this morning. I'd like to thank Dashin for connecting with you all today. Wisdom for putting us in the pictures. My name is Toyin Alabi. We'll come with Perspectives tomorrow morning. Good morning.